get started. So I do want to first thank all interested stakeholders who might be watching to visit our website to provide additional feedback for the finalists. So for those of you who are either here or will be here later or who are watching, the board will be receiving your feedback prior to making our decision. And the way to add that feedback or provide that feedback to us is by going to the superintendent search page, which is on our website, and then searching for the QR code, and you'll be able to add your feedback there for your convenience. I'd like to welcome everybody who's here in the room, and I'd also like to introduce all of the board members. Dr. Allen, you know most of us, I mean all of us actually, but because this is the way we're going to do it with everyone else, we'll do it the same way with you. So I'd like to introduce Board Member Cahoon from District 4, Vice Chair Booth from District 5, Board Member Melendez from District 2, Board Member Arguello from District 3, and I am Board Member Castillo from District 1 and the Chair. So this is the way that the process will be for the next 90 minutes. You will have a full 90 minutes today for your interview. You will have 3 minutes to give us an opening statement before your interview starts. Each one of us will ask a series of questions that are related to our strategic plan, and we will go in order of our district. Each board member is allocated 15 minutes, and we are prepared to ask about 4 to 5 questions. The number of questions you get, though, is depending on how long it takes you to answer each question. And at the end, you will have some time to give us your final thoughts or to ask any additional questions of the board. So, Dr. Allen, you are able to give us your opening statement.
Thank you. Board, I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with you today. I can tell you that I would have never seen myself through the vast majority of my life sitting here and having this dialogue with you regarding this potential. I think as you probably read my submitted materials, I'm a first-generation college kid. My parents are very loving and honest and hardworking, working-class folks that raised me with core values of hard work, determination, and perseverance, and above all else, doing right by people. And I've exhibited all those qualities through my personal life and my work life, throughout my course of career, my 29 years here, I think it's helped me to get where I am today and I'm sitting right here in this chair in front of you. I think, as you also know, I'm not an Osceola native. I kind of backed into this job at Neptune Middle School 29 years ago, and I fell in love with the county. I fell in love with the small town atmosphere. I fell in love with the natural beauty, but most of all, the diversity of the people. And I loved it so much that I put a stake in the ground and said, this is my home. Been here for the past 29 years. I met my beautiful and amazing wife, Amy, right here. At the time, she was a speech-language pathologist at Ventura Elementary School. Coincidentally, we were born about 50 miles apart and 50 days apart from each other in northern Indiana. We didn't meet till we both worked right here in Osceola County. So I do believe it was fate. She's worked at a number of different schools, elementary, middle, and high school, both as speech-language pathologist and as deaf and hard of hearing teacher. She's an amazing professional, and I love her very much. So we were married in the year 2000, Presbyterian Church, downtown Kissimmee. We have 3 wonderful kids. Benjamin's our oldest. He's a graduate of Harmony High School and is currently attending Florida State University to be a social studies teacher, just like his dad. And our daughter Madeline, some of you were on stage just a couple of weeks ago. She graduated from St. Cloud High School this year. She's going to be attending University of North Florida this coming fall. And she's going to be studying deaf education, just like her mom. And then there's Caroline, our youngest. She's a sophomore, or will be a sophomore at St. Cloud High School. She has ambition to get into the career pathway there of the medical field. And eventually she wants to pursue a career there. Unlike her mom or her dad, Caroline has a knack for doing things her own way. So if you haven't had the pleasure of meeting my family yet, Amy's going to be here all day. My girls are going to be at Valencia this evening. Benjamin, however, is out of town. He's working, saving money for coming semesters in Tallahassee. Board, I can honestly say that other than my own family, there's nothing that I cherish more than my work in this school district. I've worked as teacher, dean, assistant principal, principal of two very different middle schools. I was director of research evaluation, and for the past 10 years have served as assistant superintendent for middle and Canadian schools. And I think I've achieved a lot of success by virtue of the values that my mom and dad have instilled in me, but also by leveraging their greatest resource in the district, our people. I know how to build teams. I know how to build relationships with people. I believe that fundamentally people don't grow in a garden of shame or fear, but instead people grow by respecting them, by caring about them, by valuing their opinions, including them in decision making. And when you do that, there's a special trust and a special sense of team that's built that then people in return give to you tremendously. Investment, they take on collective responsibility for the organization. It takes people out of their comfort zones where they normally wouldn't go when they feel safe. And then ultimately, that sense of team helps to create innovation and production and morale and retention. This has been a cornerstone of my career and is absolutely the approach that I would take as your superintendent. I also want to touch a little bit on the past 10 years as assistant superintendent. I've had the honor of working under two very skilled and amazing superintendents. Melba Luciano hired me into this position 10 years ago. And then when Dr. Pace took over as superintendent, I continued in the same role but took on some different responsibilities. And I'm forever grateful for both of those women. But I have given it a lot of reflection over the past couple of months about my time on cabinet and those two leaders. And it's funny how they are very much alike in some ways, but yet some of you know them, they are very polar opposite in some other ways. And what I've done and what I intend to do as superintendent is to take the best of their leadership, as well as all those leaders that I have been under before, and take the qualities and approaches that work for them, the ones that fit me and my leadership, okay? I am not Melba Luciano, and I am not Deborah Pace, okay? I bring my own ideas, my own innovation, my own approach, and my own style, and I have no doubt that I'm ready to be your superintendent. A couple other things I wanted to touch on before we get started, if I may. The 10 years that I've had has given me great insight into the district. I mean, I mean it when I say no one other person knows the inner workings of this district better than I do. I know the strengths, I know the weaknesses, I know where things need to be leveraged, and I know things that need to be strategically abandoned. Okay? And I'm ready to do that day one. People, production, or people and practices, products, there are things that need to stay and there's things that need to be altered. There's things that just simply need to go away so we can take that money and put it towards our people and compensation. I was a big part of trying to find operational dollars this year, about close to $3.5 million we were able to find both in school and departments. I was a big part of that, but I know for a fact there's more room there. There's more room to be more efficient, there's more room to be smarter, there's more room to use our research base that we know of things that are effective and things that we can let go. I'm ready to make bold, ambitious changes, guys. And board, I'll finish with this candidly. You all expressed a level of respect for me regarding my work ethic and my commitment. And you've done it at the dais, and personally, I've heard that from you. And I very much appreciate that. But if there is in either the front or the back of your minds that with me you're going to get complacency or you're going to get more of the same today and tomorrow, I'm out to prove you wrong. Okay? I'm ready for this job. And with that said, I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. The first question will come from me. High performance by students and accountability are priorities of our board, as you know. How would you assess the current student performance levels? And how would you assess effectiveness of our teachers and programs?
And Madam Chair, could I ask you to repeat that one more time, please?
Absolutely. High performance by our students and accountability are priorities for the board. How would you assess the current performance levels in our schools? And how would you assess the effectiveness of our teachers and programs?
Okay. So I'll first address our current state of academics. And, the state of Florida very much lays out for us what success looks like through the accountability system. Our components of the accountability system have been the same for about 8 years, and I'm excited tomorrow to share some insights with you. But I'll touch on those a little bit right now. So there are areas where we are doing very well, okay, in the Florida accountability system. Middle school acceleration, the one cell that I've been in charge of for the past 8 years, is grown tremendously, 19 percentage points over the past 9 years. And currently, this past year, we are 15 percentage points above the state average. That's huge, okay? And that needs to be celebrated and recognized from the hard work of our principals and our teachers, and most of all our students. Took on the responsibility of trying to fill, we can't fill achievement gaps until we fill opportunity gaps. We have got to get kids into high-level classes and believe that they can do the work. And then we got to give them extra time and extra supports to make that happen. And that's exactly what I've been able to accomplish with the acceleration component. Learning gains is another area where we are above the state average in English language arts, mathematics, both learning gains for all students, but in addition, our lowest 25%. Okay, we're measured on the lowest 25% of math and English language arts. Years worth of growth, we're doing better than most other counties in the state. That's an accomplishment. We need to recognize that. No matter where or when our kids come to us, different countries, different states, different counties, different languages that they speak, we're able to get them a year's worth of growth better than most other districts. That needs to be celebrated. Okay. Where we are falling short right now is the ultimate measure of graduation rates. We are, as you know, we're below the state average, where we had not been for many years. We had been above the state average. Last year we were lower. And this year, the data that just came out, as you know, we are now about 3 points below the state average, and we dropped 4 percentage points overall down to 85%. And that is unacceptable. Okay? We have to make efforts and find ways to increase the graduation rate, because there are lifelong implications that come with graduating from high school. Dropouts this is part of my doctoral work, so I know this data extremely well. Dropouts are more likely to be incarcerated. Dropouts are more likely to live in poverty, more likely to rely on government assistance programs, and more likely to have health issues, and ultimately have a 10-year less lifespan than those of us that graduate from high school. Okay, so this isn't just a number. This is life-changing. There are some things that are taking place right now in our high schools that are going to continue to help our students get across that stage. Dr. Evans has done a great job of instituting more structure to those things. And next year, I want to move those down, not just to 11th and 12th grade, but if I were superintendent, it would be 9 through 12 that we start tracking kids and making sure that they're on target to graduate. Another thing that I would do is look, because graduation doesn't start in high school, and graduation starts VPK. So there's a whole plethora of things that we need to do. And as I mentioned to you in a workshop a couple months ago, I'm working with the Research Evaluation Department right now to find out what characteristics, not of our graduates, what characteristics of our non-graduates are there that we can focus in on and try to give them a better shot in high school of getting across that stage. And I've got some examples that I'll share with you probably in another question. In terms of teachers and how we know how they're doing, guys, we've got a big hill to get up with our staff right now. First of all, our teachers that have been loyal to us and are here and continue to stay are in need of more compensation. Okay, and that's one way that we can keep them. I think that getting out in schools with the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, working with principals in the classrooms, not professional learning that's outside of the classroom, but shifting that to in-classroom supports. And I will say that I do agree 100% with Mr. Osceola that we have in-house experts. Okay? Oftentimes we spend money on people to come from the outside in. Before we go outside in, we need to be looking inside to train our teachers within our classrooms instead of pulling them out. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will come from Board Member Melendez.
Oh, we're going to do round robin instead of all five at once?
Wait, am I doing all of them?
Yeah.
But here's the problem is that we are way off on time already.
Okay.
No, we managed, we'll pull a few from the last part, so his closing will be shorter.
Okay.
Everyone will
And
get
that's
their
3
15
minutes. We were way beyond
Thank
3
you.
minutes already.
Thank you so much.
And so if she does all hers first, then the chances are,
She may not get to all of hers, she'll have her 15 minutes, whether it's 3, 5, however many questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
The next question is regarding talent management. How do you measure the staff's performance? And how has that measurement resulted in improvements?
Sure. So I'll kind of point to my time as principal because the principal is in charge of evaluating our teachers. And there is, of course, just like in any job, there's a formal evaluation that takes place, right? And there should be checkpoints along the way. The formal evaluation is one thing, but it's the checkpoints, the formative assessments along the way in the classrooms that matter most. It's just like when you're working with kids, the formative assessments along the way inform teaching and inform next level decisions, where the summative, the FSA or the FAST test now, there's not much you can do after that, right? So getting in classrooms and really evaluating on the spot what teaching is looking like and being able to model and coach our teachers, that is paramount as the instructional leader of the school. And as principal supervisor, it is my job to poise the principals to be able to do so. Okay, because I'm in classrooms, I'm in schools every day, but I can't be there every single day. I can't be in every classroom. So it's the principal's responsibility, and we have to rely on them. And in order to rely on them, we have to give them the right tools and the right empowerment to evaluate those teachers. And when we do so, that in-classroom support for our teachers, that is what's going to move student achievement. So I believe I answered your question of evaluating teachers and evaluating performance.
Thank you. The next question is on safety and security. How do you ensure that the climate assessment results are used in school improvement plans across the district?
Could you repeat that one more time, ma'am?
How do you ensure the climate assessment results are used in school improvement planning across the district?
Okay. Yeah, so the climate assessment results, panorama survey, and then I think also by looking at the student survey, but also the insight from our staff are both two key measures that we have to look at in order to change culture. One of the bedrocks of my plan that I'm going to be speaking to you tomorrow is safety and security. A safe and orderly and positive environment is research-based to not just keep people safe, but it also improves student achievement. Okay, so that is an absolute focus for us. By using survey the results, we have to know what our students and what our adults are thinking and feeling, and then we need to react to that in order to make changes, to make those environments more safe and orderly and positive. I've worked with my principals for the last couple of years when we've received the data back, and we analyze together, we build plans together, we share ideas together in ways to try to get better at providing safe environments. One of the things that I would say that is a big focus for us right now is creating a greater sense of belonging with our kids. The Panorama survey that continues to be a measure that is lower than it needs to be, and there is there's strong research that shows that when kids feel connected and when they feel a part of school, then their performance is better, their attendance is better, and discipline drops.
Thank you. We have 5 minutes, so I'm only going to ask one additional question, and this will be related to community engagement. How does a superintendent ensure academic programs meet the needs of the local community?
Yeah, so that's our ultimate goal, right, is to, as Thomas Jefferson said, an educated populace is the backbone of our society. So our ultimate goal is to prepare our kids for the future, and we want them to stay right here in Osceola. To do so, they need to be gainfully employed. So working with CareerSource and working with our local business leaders, working with our folks from Neo City, all the other industries in our local area, we need to be partnering with them to make sure that we are well preparing our kids for jobs and for employment and careers in Osceola County. So that I can tell you that I know that there are a lot of initiatives that take place. There's a lot of connection with our community, but I do think that there's some area to increase and some area to improve. So ultimately, I'm getting a little lost in the question. Could you ask me one more time, ma'am?
Absolutely. How does the superintendent ensure academic programs meet the needs of the local community?
Yes.
You were there.
Yeah, right. So yeah, and making sure that CTE pathways are aligned with the workforce needs. That's the bottom line. And a lot of times we just think about high school with CTE pathways, but I have been very intentional and worked very hard to develop that pipeline through middle school, and now we're reaching even deeper down into elementary schools to make sure that there are choice pathways that are available for those high-demand jobs in Osceola County.
Thank you so much. And now, we will go ahead and move over to District 2.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. Appreciate you coming out today. What are your thoughts on triple I time? How does the district set aside time to catch up students who are behind on their studies or behind on a particular subject area?
So intervention time is critical, right? We have a certain number of FTE minutes that we have to meet by law. Most times in our schedules, we can carve out some minutes that are non-FTE time for intervention. Now, triple I time, you called out specifically, that those are FTE minutes, and that's required by law in elementary schools. But in the middle and high schools, it operates a little bit differently, where those are actually non-FTE minutes. Back in 2018, I made it my mission as the middle school assistant superintendent to work with the principals and master schedules to find time for intervention, right? when kids, when we know that they are struggle or when they know that they need enrichment, that's a time that we can provide that to our students. Otherwise, you're taking time away from core. You're taking time away from what they need in Tier 1 instruction. Now, it's not an easy thing to do, sir. I'll be quite honest with you, and I know you're familiar with the setup at Neptune Middle School. Mr. Rademacher he's got a great system, and he does a great job with it. It is a lot of coordination, okay, trying to build it into the master schedule, making sure that you're meeting the right kids and the right needs with the right teachers that have the skills to fill those gaps or to enrich what they need. But that's been a success for me. Back in 2018, I started that process, and 2 years after that, I had every middle school and every K-8 with an intervention time, and it has been functioning better and better every single year. We continue at the summer. That's always a topic of conversation with my principals, is how did it go this year? What changes are you making? And what's it going to look like this coming year? So the intervention time is absolutely imperative, and I do feel like I've had some success there, sir.
Thank you. I'm sorry for rushing, trying to get
That's
to
okay.
the Our teachers' salaries are influenced greatly by the state of Florida. However, for the other employee categories are not. How do you plan on fixing the compensation and pay equity of every other category, including the administrative salary schedule?
Okay, so great question. And like I mentioned, compensation is it's another one of those key priority areas that I believe we have to find more money for our people. You know, a couple months ago, we had to renew our homeowners insurance, and it almost doubled in price. And, you know, we've got to be able to keep up with that inflation rate to keep people afloat. You know, we owe it ethically to our people. You know, there's really three ways that we can find more money to compensate. It comes down to increased revenue, altering spending or saving practices, or increasing efficiency. And we have been increasing efficiency, and like I said, I think that there's more opportunity there, but we have increased efficiency, and I think that we can increase more to put more dollars in compensation for employees. Generating additional revenue, you know, we do have some increase in the base student allocation this year, but it's not a lot. And I don't foresee right away big changes from the state of Florida giving us a lot of money for compensation. I do applaud, however, Mr. Melendez, the fact that, you know, you were thinking outside the box when it came to the quarter penny a couple of months ago. That may not have been the right time, the right place, but I appreciate you opening up that dialogue and trying to think outside the box. And then finally, the only other way that we can increase compensation is by altering our spending and our saving practices. And board, that is a governance issue, you know, and that's something that you have to determine where we're willing to pull back, or where we're willing to dip into our savings. And of course, I will support whatever decisions that you make, but I can certainly make recommendations to you, and I will.
Thank you. What are your thoughts on the use of guardians? And what do you think about the district possibly standing up its own force?
So I don't believe that anything takes precedent over a law enforcement officer on a school campus. Okay, I would be committed to continuing to try to get an SRO on every single site. I've spent a lot of time at Kissimmee Middle School this past year. They have a wonderful SRO, Officer Fay. He's amazing. However, he is military, and so when he is gone, oftentimes there's been a guardian in his place. I appreciate that, and it's comforting to know, but there is not the same level of support that a guardian can give than an SRO when it comes to building relationships with kids, correcting behaviors. You know, if there's an emergency, yes, but if there are minor emergencies or even a fight, the guardian is not allowed to participate in that event. Okay, where an SRO has a lot more flexibility and a lot more power to assist the administrators in keeping our environments safe, orderly, and positive.
How can we, and thank you, I'm trying to get as many questions as I can, so I apologize for.
Sorry, I'm long-winded today.
No, that's okay. No, I appreciate it. How can we further reform our healthcare model but keeping quality up there, but at the same time, keeping a mindset of reducing costs and lowering, well, hopefully one day, lowering the premium to our staff.
Yeah, so I'll be completely transparent. You know, healthcare is not an area where I am an expert by any means. But I have sat on the I've sat at the bargaining table for about 12 years now on the district side of OCA with our instructional units. So, I mean, I certainly have been part of the discussions and negotiations over the years when it's come to healthcare. Again, I think that this really points back to trying to provide our employees the absolute best healthcare that we can with the money that we have. And it goes back to the same thing that I mentioned before. Additional revenue, finding ways to be more efficient, and then altering spending and savings to put more dollars towards healthcare.
What are your thoughts on the use of committees, but that are comprised of both staff and community members? And would you change a course of action based on a specific recommendation from that committee?
First of all, the importance is paramount. Okay, I absolutely applaud the work that was done with the ESC focus group that you guys called for, and Mrs. Booth serving on that. And we had not just our employees giving say and input into that focus group, but also we have there was an advocate that was there and a board member. That is extremely important. I have called for my entry plan that I'm going to share with you tomorrow. Called for additional focus groups. Okay, I really, the two that I recommend, and then of course I would garner input from you as to what other areas that we can get recommendations from, like we did the ESD focus group. The two areas I want is number one, human resources, okay, and because I think that there's opportunity there and it's such a critical need. And the second one is technology and the use of artificial intelligence to use it as an instructional tool, particularly for an intervention tool during intervention time. My wife and I have been studying AI for the last couple of months, and I think that there's huge opportunity there, sir.
Awesome. So I guess I'll save the 100-day entry. I got 5 more minutes left. We kind of blew through these. But I guess if you want to share that for the rest of the board then, so day one, what is your 100-day? Do you have well, first of all, let me ask it this way. Do you have one that's written down?
Would you like it now?
Well, I don't know if
Yeah, because we'll need it for tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
I guess since we could do that, then I guess let me modify the last question then a little bit.
Sure.
So at least name one specific reform that you're most passionate about, that you would like to change. And it doesn't have to be like a negative slight on the people that are here. You say you're different, show me you're different. Tell me one specific thing that you would definitely want to change, like on day one.
Yeah. First thing that comes to mind, and there are many, and as you look in the plan, I've starred the radical changes. Instead of bullets, they are little blue stars, okay, just for your convenience, okay? Probably one of the most immediate things that I would do as your superintendent would be to restructure the leadership team. First of all, we have some retirees, right? Ms. Otterson is retiring, of course, Dr. Pace. That we need to fill, and we need to fill immediately. I do believe that there's opportunity for restructuring to make things more streamlined and to be more efficient. One of the things that we've really struggled with, and I'm going to speak candidly with you. It's been a lot. It's been getting harder and harder for myself and my 2 partners to be in charge of both curriculum instruction efforts as well as management of schools. Okay, in most districts, it doesn't operate that way. In most districts, those are separate departments. Now, the key is when they're separate departments is the intermingling, so they're not running in isolation with each other. But we've outgrown that model. Okay, there's got to be one chief, or one, not necessarily chief, but one person that oversees academics instead of 3 of us. As you know, Dr. Reyes, Dr. Evans, and I have worked very closely together, and we've made that work to provide consistency, but there's still opportunity for inconsistency as well, sir. So that's one of the major changes that I want to make, and I do believe, I do know that in doing so, I would bring this recommendation to you that there is cost savings that I can generate there too.
I yield my time, so that was.
Thank you. The next set of questions will come from Board Member Arguello from District 3.
Dr. Allen, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's begin with academic success. You've been here 10 years in your role, right? 29 years at the district. In my opinion, public schools have essentially failed the public. When the proficiency rate is 50%, right, as a state average, for example, to me, that is not success. So how would you commit to the people of Osceola County that we will successfully deliver education as opposed to meet some metric created by some bureaucrat in some other city from here? How do we know that we can have confidence that our graduation rate is more reflective of people who are ready to graduate and not just the sake of getting people out of schools as a rate?
So, first of all, I do absolutely agree with you that 50% proficiency rates across the state of Florida is unacceptable. Okay. And then we are lagging behind the state average in proficiency rates by about 5 percentage points overall. Math, English language arts, and now science. We've dipped in science as well. That's paramount, okay? And that's not an elementary problem, that's not a middle school problem, that's not a high school problem, that's across the board. So one of the ways, and I mentioned in my video, is about VPK. Okay. You know, the parents are our kids' first teachers. I do believe that we need to continue programs such as the Mommy and Me, going into the hospitals, providing information about literacy, the importance of speaking to kids. You know, so many times we're out to dinner and I see little ones with phones in front of them instead of interacting with their parents, and that breaks my heart because to be literate, all right, the first step in literacy is listening. Okay, you listen, you speak, you read. Those are the steps. So the interaction with their parents, the interaction with peers is so vital. Our VPK programs, as I've mentioned to you in the past, we have waiting lists of kids that want to get into our VPK programs. Okay. Waiting lists, 22% higher. That's the PM1 data this year. Is when they come to kindergarten and they take the first assessment, kids that went to VPK are in our district 23%, in the state 22% higher if they've been in VPK versus non-VPK. And we've got kids and parents that want to get in our VPK programs, and that's unacceptable. They're 7 points behind when they come to school, and then we can never catch them up all the way through elementary, middle, and high school. So it's got to start at a younger age to break this systematic cycle. Okay, and as you can tell, I am very passionate about this. Because if we're going to make systematic change, and when you're talking about moving over that 50%, Mr. Arguello, this is one of the ways that we're going to do it. We've got to find money, we've got to find ways to open up more VPK classrooms.
So how are we at that 50%? Why are we at that 50% right now? Why is 50% a benchmark that we would use? And obviously, VPK programs have been hit and miss in the past. We've used them, some jurisdictions have used them, some have not. That 50% is a lower standardized rate for education, not an increased rate. The standard is not increasing, it's getting lower and lower so that people can get over it. So how is VPK going to fix that?
Again, VPK, starting kids even before they come to VPK and learning to read and learning to basic mathematic facts, that's the only way that we're going to increase the performance of our kids, and ultimately, the ultimate measure being graduation rate, okay? Like I said before, it doesn't start in high school. starts all the way back from birth till we have them in senior year.
Okay. Regarding talent management, for me, facts are neither negative or positive. They're just there so that people can reflect and make decisions as a leader in a leadership position. For me, Osceola County, in regards to talent management, has an atrocious record. We offend veteran teachers. We make excuses for those who do not perform. We allow conflicts of interest in our district. It seems that the number one qualifying principle is to have gone to high school with somebody in a position of power. And we cover up as much wrongdoing as we try to fix. Considering you've been here and this is the culture that you've been raised in professionally for the past 29 years, what are you going to do to fix those issues?
So that was a long question. Can you repeat ultimately, if not everything, just the essence of what you were trying to get from me?
Yes, I'm not impressed by our record in regards to talent management here in Osceola County.
Okay.
So, considering this is where you've grown up professionally, so to speak,
Yeah.
how are you going to fix it considering this is what you're used to? And here in Osceola County is not the way it is across the world or in private organizations. This is by and large very different from it would be outside of this district.
Okay. So first of all, I didn't go to high school here, so I certainly wouldn't be putting people into positions just based off of that. I've made a career of people, like I mentioned earlier, in building a trust with people. I do believe that if you told me, Dr. Allen, we want you to go this direction, I could light a torch and I would have masses and masses of employees here because of and community members that I have built relationships with and know that I'm in this position for right reasons. I'm not interested in moving people up or moving people out because of self-ambitions. I assure you of that. Okay, I'm here to do what's absolutely the best interest of our kids, and I am here to work with you and to lead in the best way possible and the most ethical way possible, sir.
Do you acknowledge that those are concerns of the public in
I
Osceola
know they're
County?
concerns of yours.
Do you acknowledge that they exist, those issues?
I don't think any organization is completely, there's things that need to be fixed in every organization. I don't see it as a pervasive problem like you do, but I certainly value your opinion, and when things do arise, I'm going to address them.
Do you, just let me finish this area with this question.
Sure.
Do you know how many of our senior leadership went to high school together, for example? Just that example, just because you mentioned it in your response.
No, I don't.
Okay, more than a handful. So even though I was making light of the situation, I'm making light of it because it exists. Otherwise, I wouldn't know about it. 3, in our strategic, portion 3 of our strategic plan is the finances. We have also a very poor record when it comes to accountability regarding the finances. I would say that our district, if in any area can be positive, this may be one of them. However, there are many questions regarding to our expenditures, how they're spent, and how things find themselves in different line items where they may not be appropriately placed there. Would you commit to a deep financial audit by RSM or an internal auditor?
Absolutely, 100%. And as I mentioned earlier, I do agree with you that there have been some items of spending, particularly over the last 3 years, where it's sort of been the land of milk and honey with our federal monies that have come in that aren't necessary. That I think that we can look in-house and take care of some things instead of outside professionals coming in. Now, there's space for that. I mean, there are programs and there are organizations that work, but those have to be research-based. Okay, so our REA departments, program evaluations, looking at those, being transparent with those, with you guys and our community, and saying, hey, this is working and this is not, and this is how I'm going to recommend to you that we spend our dollars because of those reasons. You know, that's what it ultimately comes to.
Okay. community engagement. The chief reason for community engagement is to build trust with families, our families, who allow us to exist. So many of the opportunities to have true community engagement have been sullied by stacking committees and surrounding leadership with yes men, cronies, and loyalists. I don't want to get into a debate whether or not that's true. If you require proof, I can read them to you. I don't think that's necessary in this setting. How will you surround yourself with the most talented people as opposed to those who tell you what you want to hear or to get what they want out of the district?
Yeah, so I've made a career out of putting people around me that know more, that have done more, and don't have the same opinions and experiences that I have. It's something that I'm very proud of. I also think, to answer your question, there is room to get more people on committees and more input. Like I mentioned earlier, the ESC focus group, I think that we're absolutely on the right path there, and there are other areas, and it sounds like maybe you would want either an audit and I think that even if we do an official audit, I do think that getting a focus group of people together would be well served for finance. You know, people from our business advisory board, other community members, some of you that have expertise in that area. I think that would be well served, sir.
Do you know how long the people on the business advisory board have been serving on the business advisory board?
No, I do not, sir.
I think that would be an interesting thing to learn.
Okay.
Regarding safety and security, the fifth section of our strategic plan, I'm sure many of the other school board members are going to ask different questions, so I'm not going to entertain this doubling of efforts there. But would you commit to a third-party ombudsman for all sexual misconduct, fraud, waste, and abuse allegations to secure the safety of our students and employees?
Can you repeat that, sir?
Sure. Would you commit to a third-party ombudsman program for all sexual misconduct, fraud, waste, and abuse allegations to secure the safety of our students and employees? The problem that I see is that we have obviously many students who come here. In fact, we're embroiled in a situation now, a celebration, where there's allegations of sexual misconduct that have not been reported. That's not a crime to me, that's an actual crime. So would you commit, obviously the district in itself may have played a part in that, some way, shape, or form. So would you commit to a third-party, off-site, non-connected, completely disconnected from the district ombudsman to receive complaints of fraud, waste, and abuse, and most importantly, sexual misconduct?
First of all, just so you're aware, I'm on the sidelines when it comes to the situation at Celebration High School. I don't know the inner workings of it. I know really from your discussions here at the board, things that pertain right now to high school or elementary school and things like that, I'm not really a part of with the Human Resources Department or my partners, assistant superintendents. I would follow the direction of the board, Mr. Osceola. If that's something that the majority of the board feels that we need to grow in, then I certainly would be open to following your directions.
What do you believe, sir?
And our ultimate goal, okay, there used to be, if you remember, some of us have been in the district a while, student achievement was our first priority, right? That was plastered all over the place. Even some of our old white fleets still have the license tags on the front, and I've never agreed with that. Student safety is our first priority, okay? Right? They're in our care from morning until afternoon, and we have to keep them safe. And that's a safe, positive learning environment. That's safe from those few people out there that may have ambitions other than best interests at heart for kids. We have to do everything we can to protect them. So yes, I would agree to, if there's a need, then I would agree to it based on your direction.
Thank you.
That is done. Thank you. The next set of questions will come from District 4.
Dr. Dr. Allen, I'll start with academic success, and I think you've kind of already touched on this a little. I wholeheartedly agree with you on the fact that VPK is something that will definitely move our proficiency rate forward. As a former teacher, I know that it starts before they come to school. What other strategies would you introduce to raise test scores and reading levels of our lowest quartile students in all populations, high school, middle school, and elementary school?
I'm so sorry, ma'am. Could you repeat the question one more time for me?
What other strategies would you introduce to raise the test scores and reading levels of our lowest quartile students in all grade levels, high school, middle school, elementary school?
Yeah, so I'll start with elementary school because you probably are familiar with the Open Court program, which really is a literacy program for our youngest learners and focuses on the science of reading, especially phonics. In middle school, well, let me go back to elementary school. First of all, there is expansion room, I do believe, to move Open Court from K-3. We've seen success there to getting them to learn, but I think that there's opportunity with 4 and 5 as well. I know Dr. Reyes is working on that right now and looking deeply. We're doing some research to see what pieces of that program would be appropriate for 4th and 5th grade. For middle school, last year, I formed a committee regarding our struggling readers. Of course, we have kids in middle school that still struggle with decoding. I'm not a reading expert, but I do have a reading endorsement, so I know enough to be dangerous. The problem with our non-reading middle school kids is typically the products that are out there are geared towards elementary kids. And it makes our middle school and high school kids all the more resistant to wanting to try to learn to read because they call it babyish, These are baby materials. So I formed a committee to look at products that are out there that are for basic literary skills but are geared towards older kids. Really Great Reading is a product that the committee landed on. Okay, the committee was comprised of teachers and principals, district folks. Tried to get a wide plethora from around the county, and it was a great working group. So we've seen tremendous. We put it into 3 schools this year, 3 of our middle schools, and seen tremendous results in our intensive reading classes. So this year, we are looking to try to expand that to all of our other middle schools. High school, the same thing. This year, they went ahead and put Really Great Reading into all the intensive classes there, and Dr. Evans has experienced success as well.
Thank you. For talent management, what steps would you take to create a culture of high expectations for our employees?
So when I was principal at Horizon Middle School and I was principal at Narcoossee Middle School, you need a rally cry. Some people call them stretch goals. I've called it BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious. This is something that we all can kind of rally around. When I was at Horizon Middle School, I said, you know what, we are going to become the highest ranking middle school in the district. Okay, despite our socioeconomic status of most of our families, we're going to do this. And in 3 years, we did it. Okay, we tied St. Cloud Middle School, my 3rd year as principal, as the highest performing in the district. So I think making high expectations, first you have to give people a high goal to meet. Okay, and then you check along the way and see where you are and continue to pat and push, taking people to the cliff, putting them out of their comfort zones, not letting them fall off the cliff, but just kind of keep going back and forth there. Hey, you can do this. You can work together more, and maintaining those high expectations. But first, you have to give a high goal. When I was at Narcoossee Middle School, different population of kids. Same thing. I said, you know what? We are going to be the first 600-point middle school in Osceola history. Okay, and we did it after 3 years. Once again, 3 years, 616 points. We met that threshold. When I became assistant superintendent here, I said all of our middle schools are going to be A or B. And that was the rally call with my with my principals, we worked together. We didn't meet that goal, but we came dang close. Okay, pre-pandemic, 75% of my schools were A and B, and then 2 of the C schools, Denjon and Kissimmee, were 1 and 2 points away from being a B. So we came darn. You got to set the bar high. And I'm telling you, as superintendent, I do believe that we can be an A district in 3 years, and that should be the rally cry.
Thank you very much. For safety and security, what have you found to be the most effective strategies to address student social, emotional, and other non-academic challenges in collaboration with parents?
Yeah, and that last word you said is key, right? And involving the parents, involving the community into the process of what of bettering the lives of kids. Could you repeat the question one more time, Ms. Kingan? I'm sorry.
What have you found to be the most effective strategies to address student social, emotional, and other non-academic challenges?
Okay. So, thank you. Yeah, so first of all, communicating with parents. When there are issues with kids, working with parents and talking about the behaviors that we're seeing, whether it's mental health or if it's discipline, trying to serve them the best that we can, both with services inside the school, but then outside of school as well. Okay, what other services do we have? Like, we have partnerships with Eckerd. We have partnerships with other counseling groups that can come in the homes. But like you said, and I'll reiterate, contacting the parents and working with them as to what services, that is the absolute crux of trying to get to the root of the issues, Ms. Kate.
All right, for fiscal responsibility, this is a multi-part question. So I'd like you to think to a large critical budgetary decision you've made in the past. What was the situation? What decisions did you make and who did it involve? What analysis or information did you gather to support your decision? And what impact did your decision have on the district?
Okay, for this question, I'm gonna point to, Mr. Melendez may remember the purchase of a G3000 earlier this year. So G3000 it's a reading program, okay, which I've used for a number of years, both as principal and then at the district level. And I'm very critical when we buy programs and looking at the data and making sure that this is a program that through the years has continued to change and improve. And I think that it's got a lot of value, and the program evaluations and research and evaluation continue to show. However, periodically we need to do those program evaluations of quantitative data. In addition to the quantitative data, I have done qualitative data as well, and getting the users of the teachers, all the teachers, and then also information from students about the programs. Okay, we've dipped our toe into another kind of competitive program that also automatically adjusts text to kids' reading levels. Okay, it hasn't worked out as well. The teachers don't like it as much, the kids don't like it as much, and so that's something we need to strategically abandon and potentially use the other program that has proven to work better.
And finally, for community engagement, what do you see as the role of the superintendent in a district like ours as it relates to employee groups, students, and the community?
I apologize, ma'am. Can you say that one more time?
Mm-hmm. What do you see as the role of the superintendent in a district like ours as it relates to employee groups, students, and the community?
Spokesperson. I am your spokesperson for the entire school district. And that means our government agencies, our community members, our community organizations, our faith-based organizations. There needs to be strong relationships between the superintendent as a bridge to the 5 of you, to all those stakeholders. Because like I said, if we're going to get to an A, it's not going to be done just with me, it's not going to be done just with you. It's going to be an entire community effort, both in and outside of the organization.
I think we're good.
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, Dr. Allen, since I get to go last, a lot of this, I had a generic question, but I'm going to actually hone in a little bit on this question for academic success. My question was about all students, but since we didn't really touch on this in our conversation, my question is going to be, how will you ensure that all students, including our high achieve students, excel in every school? We talked a lot about the struggling, but I'd like to hear about the higher level students.
Yeah, and sometimes, as we know as educators, it's easy to overlook the kids that are doing things really well, right? Because we try to focus our efforts a lot of times on kids that need to learn to read and learn basic math facts. So in every school, high achievement, across the board, there have been some things that have been done over the past couple of years I'm super proud of. The universal screening for gifted in second grade has been a game changer. As you guys know, that continues. We started a couple years ago. We've identified a vast more percentage of kids that really should be receiving gifted services. In the middle school, I worked to put pathways into place into every single school where kids can earn up to 5 high school credit courses, core credit courses, before they go into high school. That's a game changer, because if you get biology and geometry and algebra and physical science on, you get some of those core courses taken out of the way, then in high school that provides more opportunity and schedule for DE and AP coursework. My own son and my daughter are products of that, and that's been wonderful for me as a parent. It's been wonderful for them as scholars.
Thank you. Our next question is under our talent management. What is your immediate plan for teacher, substitute, and bus driver recruitment?
That's a great question. Okay, so first of all, I think one of the successes we need to celebrate is our Kelly Services partnership. All right, I don't know if you guys have seen the numbers yet or not, but we have been from 50% fill rate last year to 81% this year. That's a 31% increase. I think that I had mentioned earlier some restructuring, and as you guys know, Ms. Otterson is retiring. I think that there's opportunity there for. I would not move a principal into that HR position. I think it's too critical. I want somebody with an HR background. Now, it could be an educator, okay, but it might also be somebody from the business world, because we're in too fragile shape with our hiring crisis not to have the greatest expertise in that position. So sorry, could you repeat the question one more time?
The immediate plan for teacher, substitute, and bus driver recruitment.
Yeah. So right now this is game time right now during the summer, and principals, this is what we're priority number one is we have to fill the teachers. We have to get very creative with our efforts. The crew that went to Puerto Rico were able to sign 61 conditional contracts with people. That's a game changer. Okay, we need to think outside that box. I know Diana Martinez, Greg White continue to have the job fairs every 2 weeks to try to recruit not just teachers, but paraprofessionals and bus drivers. I've attended those events every time that I can since January, and trying to pitch in and keep people. I think there is opportunity there to call people on the spot. I'm just going to give you an example. Like one nice gentleman came in, hey, what you interested in? Got to know him a little bit. And then before I knew it, he was walking out the door, and I said, hey, where are you going? He said, well, they told me, I had interest in these. They told me to continue to check the website. And I said, well, would you be interested in, it's actually part and settlement. I said, it's not too far from, your zone where you're trying to look. And he said, well, yeah, I could do that. So right on the spot, I got my phone out. I called Casey Corbett, and I said, Casey, there's a gentleman here who wants to be a custodian. She said, send him over at noon. Okay. So making those personal connections and having somebody with the capacity at those events to make immediate phone calls instead of waiting and making those connections with people, I think is an opportunity.
Thank you. All right, my next question is about safety and security. What is your experience with emergency management plans and processes in a district?
I've lived emergency management nearly my whole career here. So when I was a dean, I became a dean in 1998 at Horizon Middle School. 1 year later, the tragedy in Columbine happened. And, you know, as a dean, I'm in charge of the safety and security of the campus. That's my main priority, is keeping people safe. Okay, that had a very, very profound impact on me when that took place. Because before that, I didn't think that something like that was possible, I guess. And then, you know, you saw it in 12 kids and a teacher were killed in that event. Okay, and that's why I feel as strongly as I do about safety and security, that it's got to be a first priority. And when that event happened, you know, it's like everybody had a sense of urgency. You know, we're going to be very vigilant. We're going to be very urgent about keeping everybody safe. Well, you know, time goes by, and what happens? Then you start to get a little more loose and get a little more loose, and things aren't as tight as they used to be. And then Sandy Hook happens. Okay? And what happens is the same thing. People start to get very vigilant again, and do all the things we did before, and then it starts to wane a little bit. And then, you know, Parkland happens, and the same thing. So I want that same sense of urgency that you have after that horrible events. I want that same sense of urgency all the time. One of the ways that I would propose to you that I restructure is putting safety and security directly under the superintendent instead of having somebody in between. Okay, because I think there's a level of importance to it where I can't trust somebody else. And not that Mr. Noble is doing anything wrong. Okay, but if I'm your superintendent, I want full command of that.
Thank you. My next question will be about fiscal responsibility. What strengths do you have in the area of fiscal management?
Well, growing up the way that I did, ma'am, I have learned to be very frugal. My parents, you know, we didn't have a lot growing up, so what we did have, we took care of, and we tried to keep it as nice as we could. So, Amy and I live this way to this day. You know, I bought a very small starter home and did some renovations myself, and was able to make some money off of it. We moved to a little bit larger home for our family's sake, and now our home is paid off. You know, we're very responsible with our money. I drive a 2013 Hyundai with almost 200,000 miles, and that's the approach that I take to the work as well. We owe it to the taxpayers to do everything that we can to make the most out of our money. Can you repeat the question, please?
What strengths in the area of fiscal management?
Strengths, yeah. So I think that simply that foundation, that fundamental belief that, you know, we have money, it doesn't mean that we need to spend it, right? Or if we do spend it, we got to spend it wisely. And above all else, are we taking care of our people? You know, we got to take care of our people first. So I, as a principal, you know, back in the day when we were truly site-based managed, I did the entire budget at Horizon Middle School. That's the way it used to be when Mr. Buse and Dr. Grego were superintendents. I mean, I paid everything from the trash to the electricity. I had to budget the entire thing. That's changed through the years. It's a lot more district focused now, but there's still some flexibility, kind of a loose, tight approach with our principals. But yeah, I have no problem. I have lots of experience, and I'm confident in managing huge budgets.
Thank you. And my last question is about community engagement. What role or roles do you see parents playing in public schools, and specifically the community involvement program? Which program do you believe has worked the most successful?
The last part about programs, can you repeat that?
Specifically, describe that community involvement program that you believe has worked the most successful with parents.
Okay, so first of all, as I said before, that community partnership with the parents is absolutely profound. It's paramount. You know, in fact, I research education, always have, because it can't be there's too much to risk. We can't just do it off gut feeling. We need to use the best data that we have in order to make decisions. And all the way back to the 70s when Rod Edmonds and Larry Lizette were doing their effective schools work, which you may be familiar with. Parent community involvement is one of the 7 correlates of highly effective schools. Okay? So getting parents involved isn't just, it's not just a nice to be, it's a must be in order to make student achievement move. I'm really proud of the work that our special programs department has done with so many, the reading bus and going out to some of our sectors of our county that where kids don't often have a lot of literature in their homes. Okay, I'm really proud of that. I'd say above all else, Amy and I, when our kids went on to middle and high school, we have boxes and boxes and boxes of books, and we brought it over to Title I, to Ms. Campbell, and said, listen, these, we want to donate this because of this program. I truly believe in early literacy as a lever for increasing student achievement.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Oh, you're totally fine. Thank you, Dr. Allen. Thank you, board members, for your questions. Dr. Allen, is there any additional information you'd like to share with the board?
Briefly, if that's okay. Ma'am.
You have 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Wait,
We made it.
Yeah, we have time.
Okay, we made up some time. So thank you again, board. It's been a pleasure for me to be able to engage in dialogue with you and share some of my plans and some of my experiences. Back in 2016, I was on leadership with Mrs. Luciano, and she approached me when she announced her retirement, and she said, have you thought about being my predecessor? And first of all, I was extremely flattered because I have so much respect for her. But I went home and reflected on where I was, personally and professionally. And I came back to her the next day and I said, no, ma'am, I'm not ready. My kids are too young, and quite honestly, I have more to learn professionally right now. Board, I don't feel that way anymore, okay? I have 100% confidence in my experience and my knowledge of the district, my relationships with people. I know that I can do this job. And I really do think that I'm the right candidate right now for you and for this community and for our school district to move us to that A. I also want to say that, there are vacancies across the state, okay? And, there are people that give you a call and say, network of people. We all, I have people from Escambia all the way down to Monroe County that network of colleagues. And I got phone calls about different opportunities, and I'm not interested, okay? I want to be here. This isn't a professional stepping stone for me. I really, truly care, and I really, truly want to give back to this community. I thank you guys so much for this opportunity, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow.
Thank you. Any additional questions for us, since you do have time?
I do not, ma'am.
Okay, well, thank you for participating in the process. I know this has been really difficult. We have 2 full days of interviews, meet and greet tonight. We have tours and a lot more. Remember that tomorrow you will meet individually with each board member for your one-on-one interviews. And if you do have any questions, please contact FSBA.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, since we have time, can I ask you one more question? Just because there's extra time. All right, Dr. Allen, one issue that kind of came to a head is we talk about the district working with external, players or stakeholders. One of them is the county commission, and we had a sales tax that was supposed to be an interlocal agreement, and we never even had a meeting. The superintendent wasn't enough to sit there and say, hey, let's get together, whether or not somebody agreed or disagreed, but to not even have a meeting, regardless of what that outcome comes. Now, if you have a disagreement at that outcome, then you try to do what's best. But to me, it's like, I felt slighted that the school district, that my superintendent didn't go out there and have that conversation, especially they have such great relationships. Man, set us down, have that conversation, because we lost, because the sales tax passed, and we lost approximately $6 to $7 million a year in annual revenue to the county, that if somebody would have stepped up and really pushed the issue, we could have got that revenue for us. And as a matter of fact, you look at our last board workshops on facilities, we're talking about, cost escalations and things like that. I know you have great relationships, just like anybody else. How far are you willing to push those relationships in order to fight for the school district, even if the county may not like that conversation? Like, how would you have handled that situation differently for the
Sure,
interlocal agreement?
sure. I respect Dr. Pace tremendously. And, I'm the type of employee that I want to be able to tell my bosses straight up what I think behind closed doors, okay? But when we step out of that office, okay, and we're in the public, I'm going to have that same game face of whatever decision was made, okay? I think a conversation would have been healthy. I think that we should, like I said before, the only way that we're going to get more compensation for our people is, one of three ways is generating more revenue. So I applaud your efforts and trying to open up that dialogue. And I think that, I know the other quarter pennies, they go, it's not like they're going nowhere. And there's needs across and I understand that, but we have a huge need right now in our district. And our district affects all the other functions of our community, right? We get this right, we get everything right in our community. Mr. Melendez, honestly, I would have probably had a little more conversation.
I have another question, if we got time. Dr. Allen, what of the ideas that you've mentioned today have you proposed already to the superintendent and just hasn't come? So what have you not had the opportunity to do in your job so far that you would do?
Great question.
I've been having discussions with Dr. Pace regarding the transition of academics under one person instead of three. I really do think that it's time for us to grow out of the model that we have right now. That's probably number one, sir.
Number two?
Stretching me. VPK. Trying to expand in VPK is another area that I feel strongly about, as you've heard loud and clear from me, and it's an area where I think we've got to. We closed down a VPK site at Ross Jeffries 2 years ago, okay, for office space. I don't agree with the decision, but ultimately, I'm not a soldier, but I'm a good soldier for the school district, okay, and I'll follow directions.
Great. Since we are asking follow-up questions, then I was going to save this for tomorrow. But speaking of VPK parent involvement, you mentioned parent involvement in several of your answers, and I know that we sprinkled them in several of your questions as
Yes,
well. One of the concerns that I have always had as a single parent is parent involvement, and how would you get not just buy-in, but also strategically target those parents who are just trying to keep their heads above water and may not have the time to attend all the meetings or, to be able to do as much as some other folks may have. And not just parents, but also caretakers.
Yeah, and there's no one great answer for that, but when I was principal in my years, I was at Horizon Middle School for 16 years as teacher, dean, assistant principal, and then principal, which was a unique and great experience. But so many of my parents there were working 2 and 3 jobs just to make ends meet. Okay, they worked all day, all night. Who wants to come to a SAC meeting when you've working off of 4 hours sleep and trying to raise a family? So there's no one great answer, but it needs to be intentional from the people that are there, right? So communicating with them and finding ways. I would go to the hotels that we served on 192. We brought holiday gift bags and free books sometimes, and so try to come to them as much as possible is one way. Another way that I was able to get a lot of my parents in for like PTO and SAC were to celebrate the successes of their kids. And when it comes to performances, and we had a dance team, and the dance team performed for PTO, and then, that will bring the parents out, to watch their kids. And so, hey, while you're here, you know what? I've got this PTO organization. Do you want to be a part of it? I know you don't have much time, but, maybe there's some areas where, we could use your support and we can get you more engaged in the school.
Thank you. Board members who have not asked additional questions, I'd like to offer you some time as well. If you have them, don't feel forced.
Tomorrow, too. I'm going to save mine from tomorrow for tomorrow.
Okay. Ms. Cahill, you guys? Okay, thank you so much for your time, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
So the next one's at 9 o'clock.